Title: How the Stages of Human Evolution Secretly Control Modern Real Estate. The most expensive residential addresses in the world share a set of features that real estate agents describe as desirable without usually explaining why. Waterfront, elevated position, views unobstructed in multiple directions, mature trees set back from the building line, privacy from the street but visibility from the interior. These features command extraordinary price premiums in every property market in every country. And they have for as long as modern real estate records exist. The question that rarely gets asked is why. Not why do buyers want these things in a vague cultural sense, but specifically, what is happening in the human brain when it evaluates a property, and why do these particular physical features reliably trigger the response that drives people to pay more? The answer is evolutionary. The preferences encoded in the global real estate market are, to a substantial degree, the preferences of a Pleistocene hominid who survived on the African savanna, and they have not changed, because they did not need to. The environments that signaled safety, resource access, and strategic advantage 200,000 years ago still signal those things to a nervous system that has not been substantially updated since. In the 1970s, British geographer J. Appleton proposed what he called prospect refuge theory. The basic idea is that humans instinctively prefer environments that offer a combination of prospect, wide, unobstructed views of the surroundings, and refuge, a protected, enclosed space from which to observe. The combination of both is ideal. Pure prospect without refuge is exposure. You can see the landscape, but you are also visible and vulnerable. Pure refuge without prospect is a trap. You are sheltered but blind. The optimal position, in evolutionary terms, is the one that offers maximum information about the environment while minimizing your own exposure to threat. In practical terms, this translates directly to property. A house on a hill with views over a valley and a solid wall. Behind it is the physical embodiment of prospect refuge theory. The modern equivalent, an apartment on a high floor with floor-to-ceiling windows, city views in multiple directions, and a secure building entrance is structurally the same configuration. The emotional response that drives people to pay premiums for high floors, corner units, and window-facing rooms is not aesthetic taste. It is an ancient calibration of situational awareness. The Savannah hypothesis takes this a step further. Developed initially from work by E.O. Wilson and elaborated by researchers including Judith Heerwagen and Gordon Orions, it proposes that humans have an innate preference for landscapes resembling the East African savanna where Homo sapiens evolved. That landscape is characterized by open grassland with scattered trees, moderate topographic relief, proximity to water, and sufficient cover for shelter. It is precisely the landscape that appears in the global lexicon of residential aspirational design. The house with a generous lawn, mature trees at a comfortable distance, a view of water, and an unobstructed sightline to the horizon. The data supporting this is not merely theoretical. Controlled preference studies consistently show that humans across different cultures rate park-like landscapes, open, grassy, with scattered medium-height trees and visible water, as more beautiful, more safe, and more desirable than ecologically richer but visually denser environments like dense forest or featureless plains. The preference emerges in children before they are old enough to have formed cultural associations about landscape beauty. It appears in urban populations with no contact with anything resembling a savanna. The stimulus is processed as aesthetic preference, but the underlying computation is a survival assessment. Can I see what is approaching? Is there water? Is there shade? Is there cover? Water proximity is perhaps the most directly explained premium in real estate. In ancestral environments, reliable water access was the most critical resource requirement for survival. Groups lived near rivers, lakes, and springs not because of a cultural preference for scenic views, but because water determined survival. The brain still processes proximity to water as a resource indicator, and modern humans report lower stress, higher well-being, and greater aesthetic satisfaction in environments near water, regardless of whether they can drink it or need it for anything practical. This is the blue space effect documented in environmental psychology research, and it shows up with remarkable consistency across populations. Waterfront property commands price premiums of between 25% and 100% in most markets globally. That premium is the market pricing of an evolutionary signal. The cul-de-sac, a suburban street design that terminates in a closed loop with no through traffic, is one of the most popular residential street configurations in the developed world, and its appeal is a near-perfect expression of refuge preference. A cul-de-sac has a single, visible entry point. Residents can see who is arriving before they arrive. There is no anonymous through traffic. The social group sharing the space is limited and visible to its members. This is, architecturally, a defensible perimeter, a refuge position with good prospect of the approach. The fact that this street configuration commands residential premiums in markets from the United States to Australia reflects not just a cultural convention, but an ancient preference for the defendable position. The open-plan interior, the dominant architectural trend of the last 3 decades, generates a different kind of evolutionary tension. Open-plan living spaces eliminate walls and partitions, maximizing visual access from any position in the room. From a prospect standpoint, this is highly satisfying. You can see the full space from wherever you stand. But the same feature removes refuge elements from the interior. There is nowhere to observe from cover. This may explain why open-plan houses are simultaneously extremely popular on first inspection and frequently reported as causing mild unease over time. The interior satisfies prospect preferences while violating refuge preferences. The solution that most occupants gravitate toward is the creation of refuge nodes within the open plan. A chair positioned with its back to a wall, a kitchen island that creates a semi-enclosed zone, a reading corner with visual cover on 3 sides. The furniture arrangement in most homes is an unconscious negotiation between prospect and refuge. The biophilia hypothesis, Wilson's argument that humans have a genetically based need to connect with living systems, explains the consistent premium that greenery commands in property markets. Trees within visible distance of a building increase property values measurably and consistently. Green views from windows reduce measured stress hormones in building occupants. Urban parks raise the value of surrounding residential property. The market is not rewarding trees because of a cultural convention about what makes a neighborhood nice. It is rewarding the presence of signals that an environment is productive, biodiverse, and ecologically functional. The same signals that indicated a viable habitat 200,000 years ago. None of this means that modern property preferences are reducible to evolutionary psychology alone. Cultural convention, economic infrastructure, school district quality, and 100 other variables determine where people want to live and what they will pay. But the evolutionary layer is real. It is measurable, and it operates consistently beneath and across the cultural variables. The global real estate market, billions of transactions, trillions of dollars, a century of pricing data, is also one of the largest data sets ever assembled on what environments the human brain treats as safe, valuable, and desirable. And that data set is consistent. Water, height, views, green space, defensible perimeters. These are not preferences that modernity invented. They are the preferences of every hominin who survived long enough to become your ancestor. Encoded in a nervous system that came to you across 200,000 years, and expressed every day in the most expensive decisions most people will ever make.